I feel like moving to a new city marks a very distinct chapter in your life because you remember what life was like before you moved and then after you moved. And so much growth and change can happen when you move to a new city. But how do you do that on a budget? How do you do that if you still have student loan debt and you may have a car loan? How do you even find a job? I'm going to do a two-part series in this video answering Dominique's question. But before we get into the video, if you want to work with me one-on-one to have your personal money questions answered, we can do so through my program, Budget Bootcamp. It's one-on-one budget coaching. I will link to that in the description below if you're interested to check that out. Hey guys, what's up? It's Justine with Debt Free Millennials, the channel to help you crush your debt and live payment free. If you are into that debt-free living where you owe nothing, then you absolutely have to subscribe to the channel. And today we are going to be answering Dominique's question from YouTube. Dominique, I love your name because it's French and I love that name. And I love French, so this is perfect. Okay, so Dominique says, would you ever do a video on how to prepare a move to another city, state like you did from Kansas to San Diego? Would love to know your decision on moving there, the steps you took to prepare financially, securing jobs, and how to find the neighborhood you wanted to live in. Also, the cost of living from Kansas to San Diego must have been a shocker. Shocker. That is no joke, especially when it comes to rent. I will get into that in just a second. My goal is to move to San Diego, but from the Bay Area, so would love to see this. I love this question. Okay, so I'm going to break this video down into two parts. First, basically the steps that you can take to figure out how to move to a new city on a budget. And then the second part is my own experience of doing exactly that, moving from small town Kansas to San Diego, California. Okay, if you are looking to move to a new city, you got to keep things within budget, keep your money on lock. There are really kind of four things to think about before you move. The first is just figuring out exactly what you value in life. Make a list. I really feel like there's a lot of value when you write things down. And for me, that is how I get my thoughts out. I'm a writer by trade. So write down exactly what you value in life. For you, that could be experiences, just trying something new, being around maybe a new culture, experiencing food. Maybe you want to move to a location that has a lot of outdoor activities. It could also be social. Do you value socializing with others? It could be faith-based. Is it important to you to move to a location where you're going to have a church community? Maybe it's you want to move near friends and family. Maybe you're in a location where you don't have friends and family close by, and so you want to make that a priority. Make sure you list your values before you move to a new city, because I feel like the lure, that sounds French. I feel like the lure of moving to a place really exciting like New York City or Chicago or Miami, it all sounds really sexy and exciting. But if you don't have any of your values there, I think you're going to find out that you can get really lonely really quickly. Another thing that you can add to your values list is financial security. You don't want to move to a new city and then end up spending all of your money on rent or a house that you just can't afford. So you really have to make sure that that new city is going to fit your financial lifestyle and also help you achieve your financial goals. The next thing that you can do is to make that good old pros and cons list of each city. So you can take the current city that you're living in, make a quick pros and cons list of why you're living there and what you like and what you don't like about living there, and then do the exact same thing for the new city. And then just weigh the pros and cons of both cities. Have a conversation with your significant other or your best friend, your mom, whoever it may be, and just kind of talk about things out loud. Sometimes just saying it out loud, you're like, wow, holy, this actually is a good idea. Like, I'm really excited about this. The third thing that you can do is to create a mock budget. So a mock budget is awesome to do because then that's going to give you somewhat of an estimate and a picture of what your finances could look like when you're in that new city. So you can look up the different types of rent prices, home prices in that new city, and factor that into your mock budget. Take an average of what you're finding, of what you want to move into, and add that into your mock budget. You can also do the same thing for looking up average cost of electricity in Dallas, Texas. Take an average of that, plug it into your budget. Plug in all of the other things that you know you're probably going to be paying money on, such as you're going to continue paying money on your cell phone plan, maybe Netflix, certainly internet. Internet, I find, is roughly about the same price as it was in Kansas as it is in San Diego, so you can add those numbers in too. Having a mock budget is really going to help. Which also brings me into the fourth idea to be thinking about before you move is your job. Obviously, that's huge. You want to make sure that you are employed going into this new city. This can look a couple of different ways. So the first way is obviously if you end up moving and getting a brand new job in that city, that's the best way you can move because you already have that job security locked down. The second way you can do this is by requesting from your employer to work remotely. So you can work remotely for that same company. Now you're just doing it from a different city. So you might want to take a look into cost of living if you're moving like what we did from small town Kansas to California. The cost of living is very, very different. So it's an option. You just have to make sure that if you do that, and you are maintaining that same salary, that it's going to be able to support you in a new cost of living area. Now, the third way that you can do this when it comes to working and moving to a new city is that you build up your savings and you take the chance and just go without a job. Now, I personally would be extremely nervous about that, but people have done it. They take the risk. They find a new job and they make things work. If you're going to do that, you absolutely have to make sure you have, 6 months of living expenses comes to my mind. You absolutely have to have a savings cushion because that's what you're going to live off of while you job hunt. But I think my number one way that if you are going to move to a new city and have that financial security locked down is to have the job in place before you move. Okay, so this leads me into the second part of this video, which was my own experience. And when Kyle and I moved from Kansas to California, we did the job route. So he had graduated with his PhD, he was looking for a job, and he was interviewing out here in San Diego. And I remember thinking, like, this isn't gonna happen because, believe it or not, Kyle told me way back when,
I will never move to California. I just don't like it. I don't like what they stand for, and I'm just not going to move there.
And I was like, okay. Mind you, I was born in Sacramento and I have a lot of family in the Bay Area, so California has always kind of been on my dream. Like, California has always been one of those wish list dream places to live. I always thought I would come back, and then I met Kyle and fell in love, and I was like, okay, I guess we're not moving to California. It's fine. I accepted it. And so he took the interview out here. He called me and I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like,
dude, I love it here. I want to move here. What do you think?
And I was like, what? I think you need to come home and we need to talk about this. So he came home and he was like, the job's a dream job. It's beautiful weather. People are friendly. You have the ocean right there. There's just palm trees everywhere. It really does feel like paradise. And the job is amazing. And so this is really coming at me literally like left field, because he was so adamant about not moving to California, and now he's saying something complete opposite. So I'm very confused. Also, at that time, we were living in Manhattan, Kansas, which is a college town where Kyle and I went to school at Kansas State University. The city population back then was about 50, 60,000 people. So very, very small town compared to the 8 million people that are living in San Diego. At that time, I was really not challenged in my career. I had a good job with the university. I liked the work, but I wasn't challenged. I also didn't see a future there of how I could get promoted and work my way up through the system. Also, guys, working for a university, there's a lot of politics. So when Kyle and I were talking about San Diego, I pulled out my adventure journal. I keep track of all of our travels and adventures and trips in here. This is the one that Kyle got me when we got engaged. But I wanted to show you this. This is the real pros and cons list of when we were deciding to move to San Diego. I'm covering up the top part because it has a company name on here, so I want to keep that private. But basically, the pros were sweet job, weather, close to the beach, within budget. We did a mock budget. I would still be working, and my plan was to find a job out here. Living arrangements, entertainment. We loved it. Then we also did the exact same thing for Kansas. And Kansas, the pros were cheap, no moving, save money quicker, close to family. We were satisfied living with there. You know, we had good benefits, but the thing was, there was no job advancement for me, for Kyle too. We just felt stuck with our careers in Kansas. It felt also like a bubble trap, like we were just stuck in this bubble, and I wasn't really getting that cultural experience like I was mentioning before. And, you know, the weather sucks. But Kansas snows a lot, and so we were like, well, we just want to move someplace warmer. And doing the pros and cons list, having some thinking, drinking activities on the porch was exactly how we came to the conclusion. Also, we prayed on it. We're Christians, and we really just lifted that up to God and said, if it's meant to be, we know Kyle will get an exceptional offer, job offer, and you'll see us through. And that's exactly what happened. The offer came through. It was a great offer. They also offered to pay our moving expenses. The company sent movers to pack up our teeny tiny apartment, put it on a huge truck, and ship it out to California. I remember that day so clearly because there was this huge semi-truck that was compartmentalized, and we were one of the compartments, and it pulled into our ratty, old rundown apartment building parking lot. It was so funny. And I was like, we are doing this. This is real. This is happening. So prior to actually making the move out to San Diego, we did do a house hunting trip out here. So we flew out for the weekend. We stayed in a nice hotel. My aunt and uncle also lived here at that time, so we stayed with them. And we just looked up Zillow, Craigslist, anything and everything. We wanted to make sure we were within a good commute time for Kyle to his new job. And lo and behold, we actually ran into a realtor doing an open house, selling a condo. And we said we weren't interested in buying, but we were interested in renting. Could she help? And it was so great because she ended up giving us, like emailing us, a list of potential apartments that fit our criteria that night. And the next day we were out with her, and we probably saw 4 units with her that day. It happened so fast. I'm so thankful. That really was like an act of God right there. Just crossing paths like that, and then her taking care of us so quickly. And the unit that we're in right now was the very last unit we saw, and it was at the top of our budget. At that time, we were looking around $2,500 to $2,900 a month. I mean, it was ridiculous. I know. This is the cost of San Diego rental units, okay? Just want to make that clear. If you don't live in Southern California, this is going to sound extremely nuts. And it was nuts for us until we started looking around. And this unit at that time was listed at $26.95 a month, but it had everything. It had a huge patio, huge outdoor space. It had a pool, a gym, parking spot, all of these things. And I was like, wow, I don't have to pay for a gym membership. I don't have to worry about parking my car on the street because parking is a premium pretty much everywhere in San Diego. And I was like, this is it. We both had the feeling like, yes. And nearly 5 years later, we are still in the same unit. And now we pay $28.05 with the rent price increase. Doesn't matter. We still like it. Another thing that really shocked me about moving from Kansas to San Diego is just a very limited amount of space. So like parking lots, for example, are way smaller in San Diego than they are in Kansas. And I'm very much used to going to a grocery store that has a massive parking lot where people can spread out. And that's just not how it works in San Diego. I remember getting very frustrated with that within the first 2 months of living here, that I actually broke down and cried in my car. And I was like, I just want to go to a parking lot and not worry about other people around me and just go in and not have people bumping their carts and just, that was a big shock. Gas prices also a big shocker. But honestly, I haven't worried about that as much because everything is so close by that we actually don't spend that much money on gas like I thought we do. We average about $60 per month for one car. We only have one car because I work from home. So it's actually been really, really nice. Another thing is, surprisingly, food prices between Kansas and California are really not that different. I don't feel like I'm spending way more on food than I am when I was back in Kansas. So that was kind of a shocker too. Okay, this video has gone on long enough. The last thing that I will leave you with is I mentioned Kyle got his job, but I basically quit my job with the university in Kansas and then came here jobless. And we moved here in October. By mid-November, 6 weeks later, I had secured an independent contract job using a recruiting agency. And so this contract position was to cover a woman's job while she was on maternity leave. So it was a 3-month stint. I took my chances with it. I worked roughly 30 to 35 hours per week at this company. At the end of the woman's maternity leave, she came back. They liked me so much, they extended my contract another 6 months. And then after that, they offered me a full-time position with a starting salary of $71,000. When I was working in Kansas, I was making $41,000. So a $30K increase in salary within a year. I was like, holy crap. At that time though, I was side hustling and doing some side marketing jobs for smaller clients and really plugging into this idea that I could work for myself. And so I had to choose, am I going to take this full-time job with a $71K salary at this corporate office, or am I going to chance it, take these handful of clients and really build my own business? And I knew that we would be okay because we were debt-free. Kyle had a great job that he was working in and crushing it. And so I ended up declining the offer and saying, I'm going to do my own thing. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. You know, that was roughly 4 years ago that I said no to that offer, and here we are. We're still making things happen. So that's my story. I hope that helps, Dominique, in answering your question and just sharing my experience of how we were able to move to a new city. Don't forget, if you are interested in Budget Bootcamp, where you can talk about your own financial world and get your money questions answered, you can do so using the link below. And let me know, what city are you interested in moving to? Is it San Diego? Let me know, and I will catch you guys in the next video.